ॐ शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करभावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। अगजानन पद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्जसम्भावितललाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करस्रजं। வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹரஹரோஹரா. லோகவீரியம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதி ஹிருதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யகம். சுவாமியே சரணமையப்பா. வாகர்த்தாம்பிவ சம்பிருக்தௌ வாகர்த்த பிரதிபத்தயே जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। श्री पार्वती परमेश्वराभ्यां नमः। कोमलं कूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचर गुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन् हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरणभ्यर्थितानपि अर्थान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी ध्रुवमभिलषति व्यर्थमर्त्यव्रजोऽयं। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशी विभूषितकरात् नवनीरदाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलादरोष्टात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने। കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടുമീറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചന നിന്നോടായി. ഏതീനു മന്യനെ കുമ്പിടേണ്ട തോറു രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കനായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Good morning, everyone. So coming after like a couple of weeks break, I think we had the Parayanam last week for those who were able to join. So anyway, we'll continue. So we have 50 more Dasakams left. We're exactly halfway through, right? So we'll start from 2 today. So let me see who I had. So Sujata Garu, you can be student, and Usha Garu, you can be student first half. Okay, so the Dasakam 2 is Bhagavat Rupa Varnanam. So in Dashakam 1, Bhadrapad spoke about the glory of the Lord who is in Guruvayur. So in 2, he's talking about the form of the Lord. So this chapter is more like, a lot of the stanzas are like Dhyana Stokam only. It's more like meditation kind of stanzas where you imagine the form of the Lord, that he's describing, who's there in Guruvayur. So stanza 1. सूर्यस्पर्धि किरीटमूर्ध्वतिलक प्रोद्भासि फालान्तरं कारुण्याकुलनेत्रमार्द्रहसितोल्लासं सुनासापुटं गण्डोद्यन्मकराभकुण्डलयुगं कण्ठोज्ज्वलत्कौस्तुभं त्वद्रूपं वनमाल्यहारपटलश्रीवत्सदीप्रं भजे. So bhaje, I'm meditating on you, the form of you which is described, and some of the words are pretty kind of obvious here. So first is the kiritam, the crown which you are wearing is shining, which is shining in brilliance, like about like about what do you call, like hundreds and thousands of suns, like in brilliance. That is the crown you are wearing. Then you kind of come down. It talks about the tilakam, the sandalwood paste that you have, which is like we saw in the 100th Dashakam also. It is like an upright one, which is very thin, like a fifth day moon. That's how we describe it in the 100th Dashakam. So it's an upright mark, which is actually there in your forehead, which is actually making it very shining as well. Then the netram, the eyes of yours, are like filled with mercy, right? So when you look at it, you feel like, what, I'm completely surrendering myself to you, because your karunya kula netram, it's filled with mercy. And the face of the Lord, it's always any form of the Lord you see in the photos, it's always very shining. So it's the hasitollasam, it's always like a smiling face. So you feel like, I can actually rely on this person. So it's a very smiling face that you actually have there. And then nasa putam, the nose you have is well shaped. See, that is also extremely important, right? Like a lot of people, like even I have, my nose is very big, but it says your nose, so Lord, is very perfectly shaped nose that is there. And then in the 2 ears, you actually have these fish-shaped earrings, which are actually hanging on either of your ears. And then looking at the cheeks, and this is very similar to the 100th Dashakam, if you all remember that. And it says in the cheeks, I can see the reflection of the earrings that you are actually wearing in both of your ears. Then Kanto Jwalat Kaustubam, the Kaustubam jewel is shining in your neck. Then, then the Vanamala, you are wearing this garland of forest flowers and tulasi and everything which you're wearing around your neck. And then, of course, your chest has the mark of Srivatsam. And we'll see how that mark of Srivatsam comes upon. That is there in the 89th chapter. So the Srivatsam mark is there on your chest. And this form of yours, bhaje, I am actually meditating on that form. Surya Spardhi Kiritam Urdhva Tilaka Prodbhasi Phalantaram, Karunyakula Netram Ardra Hasitollasam, that's one word, Hasita Ullasam. So Hasitollasam Sunasaputam. It's both of the lines, there's no pause in between. सूर्यस्पर्धि किरीटमूर्ध्वतिलक प्रोद्भासि फालान्तरं कारुण्याकुलनेत्रमार्द्रहसितोल्लासं सुनासापुटम्.
सूर्यस्पर्धि किरीटमूर्ध्वतिलक प्रोद्भासि फालान्तरं कारुण्याकुलनेत्रमार्द्रहसितोल्लासं सुनासापुटम्. सूर्यस्पर्धि किरीटमूर्ध्वतिलक प्रोद्भासि फालान्तरं कारुण्याकुलनेत्रमार्द्रहसितोल्लासं सुनासापुटम्.
सूर्यस्पर्ध किरीटमूर्ध्वतिलक प्रोद्भासि फालान्तरं कारुण्याकुलनेत्रमार्द्रहसितोल्लासं सुनासापुटम्. सूर्यस्पर्ध किरीटमूर्ध्वतिलक प्रोद्भासि फालान्तरं कारुण्याकुलनेत्रमार्द्रहसितोल्लासं सुनासापुटम्.
If you go to that first line, Surya Spardhi Dha, D sound. I think you just said Dha, it's a Thi there, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Surya Spardhi.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Gandodhyan Makarabha Kundala Yugam, Kanto Jwalat Kaustubham, Twadrupam Vanamalya Hara Patala Srivatsa Deepram Bhaje. Gandhodhyanmakarabhakundala-yugam Kantojjvalat-kaustubham Twadrupam Vanamalyahara-patala Srivatsa-deepram Bhaje.
गण्डोद्यन्मकराभकुण्डलयुगम् कण्ठोज्ज्वलकौस्तुभम् त्वद्रूपम् वनमाल्यहारपटल श्रीवत्सदीप्रम् भजे गण्डोद्यन्मकराभकुण्डलयुगम् कण्ठोज्ज्वलकौस्तुभम् त्वद्रूपम् वनमाल्यहारपटल श्रीवत्सदीप्रम् भजे
Kundalaayugam Kantojjvalat-kaustubham Twadrupam Vanamalyahara-patala Srivatsa-deepram Bhaje. Gandhodhyanmakarabhakundala-yugam Kantojjvalat-kaustubham Twadrupam Vanamalyahara-patalam Srivatsa-deepram Bhaje.
Stanza 2. Kehurangada-kankanottama-maharatnanguliyankita Srimad-bahu-chatushka-sangata-gada Shankari-pankeruham Kanchit-kanchana-kanchilanchithalasat-pitambaralambhinim Alambe Vimalam-bhuja-dyutipadam Murtim Tavartechidam. So next is going on to describe the 4 arms that you actually have of yours. Each of those 4 arms has different kinds of ornaments which are there. One is the Keyura is the one which is there on the top of the shoulder. So if you look at any Krishna photo, even my book, the front Krishna photo, when you look at it, it has like one kind of ornament which is there on the top, which is the Keyura. Then there is one which is there in the arm, right, on the bahu, which is the armlet, and then one which is there in your wrist, right, the bracelets which is there, and of course on the rings, right? So you see, these are the 4 type of ornaments you have on all of your 4 arms, right? That is number 1. Then the second is each of the 4 arms are having 4 things. One is having Gada, Shankh, Chakram, and Padma. So lotus, the mace, conch, then the discus, and the lotus, right? Those are the 4 things that each of the 4 arms are actually having. Then when you come down, then Pitambaralambini, the garment which is there in your bottom half is yellow color garment, and it also has this girdle or something which goes around the waist, which is also in yellow color, right? So it's also that entire bottom portion of that is yellow color. And of course your Padam, the feet of yours is like beautiful pure lotuses, where I am seeking refuge, because if you remember in the last 100th Dasakam, 10th stanza, he says the feet is the most important. Yogindranam Tvadangesh, among all the parts of your body, the one where the yogis take refuge is your feet. So similarly, same thing here, saying in that feet of yours, I am also taking refuge. So Keyurangada Kankanottama Maha Ratnanguliyankita. So you can't quite break it, but if you break it, it's like Ratna Anguliya Ankita, all 3 words, but goes together. Maha Ratnanguliyankita, and then put a plus and say the next line together as well. Srimad Bahu Chatushka Sangada Gada Shankari Pankeruham. So the 2 lines are together. Kehurangada Kankanottama Maharatnanguliyankita Srimad Bahu Chatushka Sangata Gada Shankari Pankeruham.
केयूराङ्गद कङ्कणोत्तम महारत्नाङ्गुलीयाङ्कित श्रीमद्बाहुचतुष्कसङ्गत गदा शङ्खारि पङ्केरुहाम् केयूराङ्गद कङ्कणोत्तम महारत्नाङ्गुलीयाङ्कित श्रीमद्बाहुचतुष्कसङ्गत गदा शङ्खारि पङ्केरुहाम्
Keyurangada Kankanottama Maharatnanguliyankita Srimad-bahu Chatushka Sangata Gada Shankari Pankeruham.
Pankeruham. Last word.
Oh, Ruham.
Yeah.
केयूराङ्गदकङ्कणोत्तममहारत्नाङ्गुलीयाङ्कित श्रीमद्बाहु चतुष्कसङ्गतगदा शङ्कारि पङ्केरुहाम्. It's a long.
Kanchit, Kanchit, Kanchana, Kanchi, Lanchita, Lasat, Pitambaralambini. So put a im at the end of that line. Pitambaralambini, im, comma. Next line that ma becomes a. Adambe, Vimalambuja, Dyuti, Padam, Murtim, Tavarti, Chidam. I think some books have just Murti. If you just have Murti, put a im there. Murtim, Tavarti, Chidam. Kanchit, Kanchana, Kanchi, Lanchita, Lasat, Pitambaralambini, Alambe, Vimalambuja, Dyuti, Padam, Murtim, Tavarti, Chidam.
काञ्चित् काञ्चन काञ्चिलाञ्छित काञ्चित् काञ्चन काञ्चिलाञ्छित लसत्पीताम्बरालम्बिनीम् आलम्बे विमलाम्बुजद्युतिपदां मूर्तिं तवार्तिच्छिदम् काञ्चित् काञ्चन काञ्चिलाञ्छित लसत्पीताम्बरालम्बिनीम् आलम्बे विमलाम्बुजद्युतिपदां मूर्तिं तवार्तिच्छिदम्
काञ्चित् काञ्चन काञ्चिलाञ्चितलसत्पिताम्बरालम्बिनी आलम्बे विमलाम्बुजद्युतिपदां मूर्तिं तवार्तिच्छिदम् काञ्चित् काञ्चन काञ्चिलाञ्चितलसत्पिताम्बरालम्बिनी आलम्बे विमलाम्बुजद्युतिपदां मूर्तिं तवार्तिच्छिदम्.
That was a small correction, Shaguru. That's third line. The Pitambaralam is long P. Okay, so Pitam, long. Just make sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Number 3. Yatrailokya mahitam sammohanam mohanat kantam kanti nidhanatopi madhuram madhurya duryadapi saundaryottaratopi sundharataram त्वद्रूपमाश्चर्यतोऽप्याश्चर्यं भुवनेन कस्य कुतुकं पुष्णाति विष्णो विभो. Saying this form of yours, which we just described earlier, is mohanam, something which is very charming. So among all the things that are charming, it is more charming than the most charming, right? So comparing that. And khanti means this brilliance. So the shining and the brilliance of that is also more brilliant than the most brilliant thing you can actually ever think of. Then madhuram, the sweetness also. So you think of anything that is the most sweet, the form of yours is even sweeter than the sweetest thing. Same thing, soundaryam. So anything I can think of, your form is more beautiful than any other form I can think of. So you're kind of comparing and saying this form of yours is so great that it is the most beautiful, it's the most charming, it's the most sweetest. So what is the ascharyam? What is the surprise that that people are not falling in love with this form of yours? So, oh Vishnu, there's no doubt about it. Of course, everybody is going to fall in love with your form because your form is so nice to look at, and it is very sweet and charming, and also more brilliant than beautiful than anything we know. So, yet Trailokya Mahiyasopi Mahitam, comma Sammohanam Mohanat, comma Kantam Kanti Nidhanatopi, comma Madhuram Madhurya Dhuryadapi. Yatrailokya Mahiyasopi Mahitam Sammohanam Mohanat Kantam Kanti Nidhanatopi Madhuram Madhurya Dhuryadapi.
यत्रैलोक्यमहीयसोऽपि महितं सम्मोहनं मोहनात् कान्तं कान्तिनिधानतोऽपि मधुरं माधुर्यधुर्यादपि यत्रैलोक्यमहीयसोऽपि महितं सम्मोहनं मोहनात् कान्तं कान्तिनिधानतोऽपि मधुरं माधुर्यधुर्यादपि
यत्रैलोक्यमहीयसोऽपि महितं सम्मोहनं मोहनात् कान्तं कान्तिनिधानतोऽपि मधुरं माधुर्यधुर्यादपि यत्रैलोक्यमहीयसोऽपि महितं सम्मोहनं मोहनात् कान्तं कान्तिनिधानतोऽपि मधुरं माधुर्यधुर्यादपि
Saundaryotaratopi. That's say it together. Saundaryotaratopi sundarataram, comma. Twadrupam. You can put that, break that im if you want. Twadrupam ascharyato-pyascharyam. So because it's, you put a plus there, so it is ascharyato api ascharyam is the word there, but because the sandhi it just joins, so you put a plus and then put a comma after pyascharyam in the next line. Bhuvane na kasya kutukam pushnati vishno vibho. Saundaryottaratopi sundarataram twadrupamascharyato-pyascharyam Bhuvane na kasya kutukam pushnati vishno vibho.
सौन्दर्योत्तरतोऽपि सुन्दरतरम् त्वद्रूपमाश्चर्यतोपाश्चर्यम् भुवनेन कस्य कुतुकम् पुष्णाति विष्णो विभो.
Sujata Garu, that fourth line first, Pya, P-Y-A, Pyascharya.
Okay. सौन्दर्योत्तरतोऽपि सुन्दरतरम् त्वद्रूपमाश्चर्यतोऽप्याश्चर्यम् भुवनेन कस्य कुतुकम् पुष्णाति विष्णो विभो.
सौन्दर्योत्तरतोऽपि सुन्दरतरं त्वद्रूपमाचर्यतोऽप्याचर्यं भुवनेन कस्य कुतुकं पुष्णाति विष्णो विभो सौन्दर्योत्तरतोऽपि सुन्दरतरं त्वद्रूपमाचर्यतोऽप्याचर्यं भुवनेन कस्य कुतुकं पुष्णाति विष्णो विभो.
Sugar, that fourth line, that first word, Pyash, is a ish sound, okay? I was not hearing it clearly. So, Pyascharyam, okay, the ish sound, okay, be careful there.
Pyascharyam. Okay, thanks.
Stanza 4. Tattadhrang maduratmakam tava vapuhu samprapya sampanmahi sadevi paramotsuka chirataram naste swabhakteshwapi tenasya kashtamachyuta vibho twadrupamanognaka premastairyamayada balabalat chapalyavartodabhut. So, for those of you remember, right, in when we saw the Lakshmi Swayamvaram, which happened in the 29th Dasakam, when the churning of the ocean happened, and then Mahalakshmi comes, and then she comes out with a garland, and then she has to decide who am I going to marry there, right? So there's a very nice stanza which says, Girisha Druhinadi Sarvadevan Gunabhajopya Vimukta Doshaleshan Abamrishya Sadaiva Sarvaramye Nihita Tvayanayapi Divyamala. So when she's walking around with a garland, saying, who should I put? She's seeing all these people standing. She's seeing sages on one side. She's seeing demigods on one side. She's seeing the gods on one side, like Brahma and Shiva and everybody. And when and Indra and demigods, all of them standing. And then she thinks that everybody has some small fault in them, that they are not perfect. So eventually she comes across you who she thinks is perfect, and then she puts the Divya Mala on you. So this Lakshmi Devi, who's married to you, says this form of yours, everything that we described earlier, which is the greater than the greatest. Of course, you know that the goddess of prosperity, Lakshmi, is so fallen not just for your form, but also for your qualities, that she's permanently residing in you. And he says the pity of this is so that in her bhaktesh, in her own devotees who pray to goddess Lakshmi, saying she doesn't stay there. Chirataram na aste. She doesn't stay in her own devotees for a long amount of time. So everybody who is only praying to Mahalakshmi and wondering why am I not getting all the prosperity and wealth is because his Bhattaripat says your Lakshmi Devi is very fickle-minded. She doesn't stay in her devotee's place for a very long time because she's always trying to come and stay with you, O Narayana. So that's the reason she doesn't even stay in her own devotee's place or devotee's heart. And this continues into one more stanza. So tattadrin madhuratmakam tava vapuhu, comma, samprapya sampanmayi, comma, sa devi paramotsuka, comma, chirataram naste swabhakteshvapi, short e at the end. Tattadhrang madhuratmakam tava vapuhu samprapya sampanmahi sa devi paramotsuka chirataram naste swabhakteshvapi.
तस्तादृग्मधुरात्मकं तव वपुः सम्प्राप्य सम्पन्मयी सा देवी परमोत्सुका चिरतरं नास्ते स्वभक्तेष्वपि तत्तादृग्मधुरात्मकं तव वपुः सम्प्राप्य सम्पन्मयी सा देवी परमोत्सुका चिरतरं नास्ते स्वभक्तेष्वपि.
Garu, that first line, tatta dring ing sound. Tatta dring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Andy. Can you repeat this?
Yeah. Tatta dring ing. Tatta dring madhuratmakam.
Okay. Tattadring madhuratmakam tava vapussum prapya sampanmayi sa devi paramotsuka chirataram naste swabhakteshvapi.
That first line, vapuhu. If you have a is there, remove that is, put a visarga and a comma, okay, in the first line.
Vapus.
If you have vapus, just remove that is, put a visarga and a comma there. Tava vapuhu.
Oh, vapuhu. Okay. Tattadrug madhuratmakam tava vapuhu samprapya sampanmayi sa devi paramotsuka chirataram naste swabhakteshvapi.
Tenasya bata kashtam achyuta vibho, comma, twadrupa manognyaka, and then put a plus, prema stairya mayad achapala balat. So that itch you'll have there, balat chapala, you'd see that. So the small itch you remove, put a it. Chapala balat, first ta, it, comma, chapalya vartoda bhoot. Tenhasya bata kashtamachyuta vibho twadrupamanognyak premastairya mayada chapala balat chapalya vartoda bhoot.
तेनास्याबत कष्टमच्युत विभो त्वद्रूपमानोज्ञकप्रेमस्थैर्यमयाद चापलबलात् चापल्यवातोदभूत् तेनास्याबत कष्टमच्युत विभो त्वद्रूपमानोज्ञकप्रेमस्थैर्यमयाद चापलबलात् चापल्यवातोदभूत्.
तेनास्य बत कष्टमुच्युत विभो त्वद्रूपमानोग्नक प्रेमस्थैर्यमयाद चापबलात् चापल्यवार्तोदभूत्.
The first line, kashtam achyuta vibho.
Kashtam. Okay. तेनास्य बत कष्टमुच्युत विभो त्वद्रूपमानोग्नक प्रेमस्थैर्यमयाद चापबलात् चापल्यवार्तोदभूत्.
Fourth line, right? Chapala balat.
Cha.
You have a la there, right?
Yeah, chapala balat. Yeah. Chapala balat chapalyavatodabhut.
Yeah. That's a fine. Lakshmi stavakaramaniya kahritai vehyam pareshwastireti asminnanyadapi pramana madhuna vakshyami lakshmi pate etwadhyana gunanu kirtana rasa sakta hi bhakta janaha teshvesha vasati stiraiva dayita prastava dattadhara. So if Lakshmi Devi is not residing, when you are praying to Lakshmi and she's not coming and staying in your place for a long time, then the question is how do you then get Lakshmi to come to you, right? So he says, he says, Bhatripad is saying, I'm going to give you another proof that Lakshmi Devi is very fickle-minded, because she says she only resides in places where people are twadhyana, people who are meditating on you, and gunanu kirtana, people who are actually saying, praising you. right? Talking about your qualities and talking about your greatness, because she's like, I love when somebody talk great about my husband or about Narayana. So wherever somebody is talking great about Narayana, constantly thinking about Narayana, that's where I'm going to be. She says that is the proof. So that's why she's always going to be residing in those places. So and only in places people who are totally devoted to you. So that is actually Bhatripad says, I have proof of that, because she doesn't permanently stay in anybody else's house here, right? Or anybody else's place. So this, there's another stanza that is going to come in the 96th chapter, I believe, the last stanza, where Bhatripad will say that by constantly getting, and the other benefit of, like I said before, right? If you want material things, you should not be praying to Narayana, because you will not get it. Because there are specific gods are there for specific purposes, right? Like Shiva, like he always says, is Ashutoshi. So anybody who wants something quick always only prays to Brahma and Shiva. No, there's no example of anybody who prays to Narayana and then Narayana comes immediately and then they say, I want to become rich. No example like that exists, right? So, no, but what Bhatripad also says is, but when I pray to you, looking for liberation, looking for devotion, all these Ashta Siddhis that are there will come to me in my fingertips. But I'm going to reject all of them. Because if I become so devoted to you, I don't need any of those Ashta Siddhis. I only need devotion. So I'll overcome all of that, that even though that is going to come by default, I'm going to reject it. Right? So that's why Bhatripad also saying the same thing here. By praying to Narayana, these will automatically come. But then if you reach that point of devotion, you will no longer want these things. Right? It becomes trivial, but then it will automatically come over to you. Right? So, Lakshmi's Tavaka Ramaniya Kahritai Veyam Pareshwastireti. So put a short ti at the end of that line. That line is continuous. Pareshwastireti, comma. Next thing, the thya goes away. It replaces with the a. Asmin nanyadapi pramanam adhuna, comma. Vakshyami Lakshmi Pate. लक्ष्मीस्तावकरामणीयककृतै वेह्यं परेष्वस्तिरेति अस्मिन्नन्यदपि प्रमाणमधुना वक्ष्यामि लक्ष्मीपते.
लक्ष्मीस्तावकरामणीयकहृतैवेयं लक्ष्मीस्तावकरामणीयकहृतैवेयं परेष्वस्तिरेति अस्मिन्नन्यदपि प्रमाणमधुना वक्ष्यामि लक्ष्मीपते. लक्ष्मीस्तावकरामणीयकहृतैवेयं परेष्वस्तिरेति अस्मिन्नन्यदपि प्रमाणमधुना वक्ष्यामि लक्ष्मीपते.
लक्ष्मीस्तावकरामणीयकहृतैवेयं परेष्वस्तिरेति अस्मिन्नन्यदपि प्रमाणमधुना वक्ष्यामि लक्ष्मीपते. लक्ष्मीस्तावकरामणीयकहृतैवेयं परेष्वस्तिरेति अस्मिन्नन्यदपि प्रमाणमधुना वक्ष्यामि लक्ष्मीपते.
ये त्वद् ध्यान गुणानु कीर्तन रसा सक्ता hi bhakta janaha. So put a visarga at the end of that line, janaha, comma. Next time if you have a is, that goes away. Teshvesha vasati sthiraiva, comma. Daita prastava dattadara. एत्वध्यान गुणानुकीर्तन रसा सक्ता हि भक्ता जनाः तेष्वेषा वसति स्थिरैव दयित प्रस्ताव दत्तादरा.
ये त्वद्ध्यान गुणानुकीर्तन रसासक्ता हि भक्ता जनाः तेष्वेषा वसति स्थिरैव दयित प्रस्ताव दत्तादरा. ये त्वद्ध्यान गुणानुकीर्तन रसासक्ता हि भक्ता जनाः तेष्वेषा वसति स्थिरैव दयित प्रस्ताव दत्तादरा.
ये त्वद्ध्यान गुणानुकीर्तनरसासक्ता हि भक्ता जनाः तेष्वेषा वसति स्थिरैव दयित प्रस्ताव दत्तादरा. एत्वद्ध्यानगुणानुकीर्तनरसासक्त हि भक्ता जनाः तेष्वेषा वससिद्धिरैव दयितप्रस्तावदत्तादरा.
Stanza 6.
Rajeshri, can I just share something quickly if you
Sure,
don't
sure.
mind?
Yeah.
So I remembered Purandaradasa Kriti Nimma Bhagya Doddado, where Purandaradasa asks Narayana, like, who is luckier, you or me? Like, he's actually asking Narayana. And he says, Sannadinda Navu Nivu Sati Mati Nodu Abanri. Come on, let's just see. Analyze who is luckier, you or me. And then he says, Nimma Bhagya Lakshmi Devi, Namma Bhagya Narayanaru. So I have Narayana in me, you have Lakshmi in you. Who's luckier? That implies this one, right? Because if I have Narayana, automatically I'll have
Lakshmi Devi is there. Yeah, because Lakshmi, like, even when the Krishna is born on the 38th, when the Lord shows the form, she's Lakshmi's Thava, she's already sitting in your chest. Like you say, when you Narayana is there, automatically Lakshmi Devi is going to be there. You don't have to.
So he says he's the luckiest because he has both of them. She only has Lakshmi.
Correct, exactly. Thank you. Stanza 6. Evam bhuta manojñata navasudha nishyanda sandohanam twadrupam parachidrasayanam chetoharam shrinvatam sadyah prerayate matim madayate romanchayatyangakam vyasinchatyapi shita bhashpa visaraihi ananda murchodbhavaihi. Says this form of yours, again, because this is all about talking about the form of the Lord in this chapter. He's saying this is so captivating because, see, when you go eat something, some sweet, if you are all sweet tooth, then you like it, but you can only eat it up to a particular point, right? Beyond that, you don't feel like eating it anymore. But says your form, which is the supreme bliss, is like a continuous stream of nectar that you are not going to feel bored about, that you are not going to say, okay, I'm done eating this, right? It's a continuous stream of nectar that you are never going to be bored about. That's number one. Two is it is not in limited quantity. It is not like, I prayed to God for 1 hour today and I think I've sucked out all the nectar out of the God. He says, no, it is like taking water from the ocean or taking fire from the fire, like the Purnamidam, Purnamidam, same story, right? When you take fire out of Agni, that Agni doesn't go down in quantity, it still remains the same. You also get it. Similarly, your form is such that I can suck up as much love out of it as I can. It is not going to be less for somebody else who wants to do it. They can also take the same amount of love out of the Lord. It doesn't, diminish in quantity. And also it's a continuous stream of nectar which is there. And because of which everybody whose mind is thinking about the Lord is always filled with joy, to the extent, and this one of this is also going to come later on in the chapter. But Bhattacharya says you'll reach a point of devotion, he says, where you should feel horripilation all over your body when you hear about the stories of the Lord or when you pray to the Lord. And then you'll have this tears of joy which are coming out of your eyes and your heart has to melt. And the same thing he'll say later also. He'll say, please bless me so that I feel like that. Because only at that point, your devotion has reached the right point where you can feel that horripilation, your heart melts, your tears come out of your eyes. So he says that is your form, because it's very easy for someone to be engrossed in your form and get to that point, right? So evam bhuta manojñata nava sudha nishyanda sandohanam, twadrupam para chidra sayanamayam, chetoharam shrinvatam. Evam bhuta manojñata navasudha nishyanda sandohanam twadrupam parachidra sayanamayam chetoharam shrinvatam.
एवं भूतमनोज्ञता नवसुधा निष्यन्द सन्दोहनं त्वद्रूपं परचिद्रसायनमयं चेतोहरं शृण्वताम् एवं भूतमनोज्ञता नवसुधा निष्यन्द सन्दोहनं त्वद्रूपं परचिद्रसायनमयं चेतोहरं शृण्वताम्
एवं भूतमनोज्ञता नववसुधा निष्यन्द सन्दोहनं त्वद्रूपं परचिद्रसायनमयं चेतोहरं शृण्वताम् एवं भूतमनोज्ञता नवसुधा निष्यन्द सन्दोहनं त्वद्रूपं परचिद्रसायनमयं चेतोहरं शृण्वताम्
Sadhyaha, put a F, Sadhyah prerayate matim madayate, comma, Romancha yatyangakam. So it's again ing sound, Romancha yatyangakam, comma, Vyasinchatyabhi Shita Bhashpa Visaraihi. So the Ra that is there, put a Visarga, comma, Visaraihi. Next line becomes A, Ananda Murchodbhavaihi. Sadyah prerayate matim madayate romanchayatyangakam vyasinchatyaphi shita bhashpa visaraihi ananda murchodbhavaihi.
सद्यः प्रेरयते मतिं मदयते रोमाञ्चयत्यङ्गकं व्यासिञ्चत्यपि शीतभाष्पविसरैः आनन्दमूर्च्छोद्भवैः सद्यः प्रेरयते मतिं मदयते रोमाञ्चयत्यङ्गकं व्यासिञ्चत्यपि शीतबाष्पविसरैः आनन्दमूर्च्छोद्भवैः
सद्यः प्रेरयते मतिं मदयते रोमाञ्चयत्यङ्गकं व्यासिञ्चत्यपि शीतबाष्पविसरैः आनन्दमूर्च्छोद्भवैः सद्यः प्रेरयते मतिं मदयते रोमाञ्चयत्यङ्गकं व्यासिञ्चत्यपि शीतबाष्पविसरैः आनन्दमूर्च्छोद्भवैः.
Shakaru, third line after madayate, there is a comma, okay?
Oh, okay.
Stanza 7. Evam bhutataya hi bhaktya yogasya yogatvayat karma jnana mayad brishottamataro yogishware giyate saundaryaikarasaatmake tvayi kalu prema prakarshatmika bhaktihi Nishramameva Vishwaburushair Labhyarama Vallabha. So I'll say the meaning for 7 and 8 together, and this we're going to see a lot of this detailed meaning on this later on when we come to the 90th chapter where Krishna is giving advice to Uddhava. In the Uddhava Gita, a lot of this comes, but anyway, so here he talks about three paths of yoga that everybody's familiar with: the Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, right? So he says this Karma Yoga, the first start the Jnana Yoga. The Jnana Yoga, the problem is it's so much intense speculation that you have to do in your mind, and you are working after understanding this kind of abstract concept of a Brahman. He says that to understand, you cannot use any of your existing senses, because if you're trying to understand it through your senses, you're not going to be able to understand it. It is pure intellectual discrimination you have to do with your mind, which is extremely complicated, right? To the extent that it takes several births for you to reach the point of understanding that Brahman. So even in the 99th chapter, last shlokam, Bhattacharya says that I cannot understand this Brahman. So I'm resorting to this worship of your form in a Sattva Guna form as an idol worship, because I can relate to it. I can see it with my eyes, right? So it's easy for me to relate to it. So he says that that is very difficult, that Jnana Yoga. Next, when you come to the Karma Yoga, and we'll see a little bit of more later also, it is about you have to do all these things and give up, saying, you know what, all of the benefits I'll give for a lot. A day doesn't go by in my house where somebody in my house says, I'm doing all these things, but you guys don't appreciate it. I say that, my wife says that, my kids also say that sometimes. I'm doing all this work, but you don't thank me for doing the work, right? So in Karma Yoga, you have to kind of say, you know what, I'm going to do all of that, and it's not just doing the work and relinquishing it. It gives a set of rituals you have to do. It's a lot of things you have to do as well, right, for doing Karma Yoga. And then you say, but however, none of the benefits I want, right, which is very difficult to attain. It says it takes several births for you to reach that point. And then he says here, where Nishramameva, without any shrama, without any effort, the Bhakti Yoga is so nice, because all you have to do is you have to fall in love with the Lord. That comes naturally to a lot of people, and he says this form of yours is so beautiful that I can naturally fall in love with it, and the devotion comes to me much easily. So everybody, all the sages, Yogishwara, all the great sages have sung saying that the Bhakti Yoga is the simplest and the easiest form of attaining you, because it comes very easily to everybody. There's no effort required, and it's the least effort compared to everything else. So therefore, even you, O Lord, it says, even you have said Bhakti yoga is the greatest, because that's what Krishna says, Uddhava. He says, oh, you can attain me by any means. But if you ask me which is the easiest and the best and my most favorite path, he says it's Bhakti yoga is the easiest. But that doesn't mean that other yogas are less, right? He just says it's easiest, relatively speaking. That's what is condensed in 7 and 8. And in Dasakam 4, we are going to see the Ashtanga yoga, right? We're going to see what is required to attain liberation through Ashtanga yoga, and you'll see how complicated it is. That you'll say, I don't even want to hear it. It's so complicated, right? And then I'll rather go on to Bhakti yoga, right? It's much easier. So, evam bhutataya hi bhaktya bihito, comma, yogassa yogadvayat, comma, karma jnana mayat brishottamataro, comma, yogishwarair giyate. Evam bhutataya hi bhaktya bihito yogassa yogatvayate karma jnana mayat brishottamataro yogishwarair giyate.
एवं भूततया हि भक्त्यभिहितो योगस्य योगद्वयात् कर्मज्ञानमयादृशोत्तमतरो योगीश्वरैर्गीयते एवं भूततया हि भक्त्यभिहितो योगस्य योगद्वयात् कर्मज्ञानमयादृशोत्तमतरो योगीश्वरैर्गीयते
एवं भूततया हि भक्त्यभिहितो योगस्योगत्वयात् कर्मज्ञानमयद्धृषतोत्तमतरो कर्मज्ञानमयोद्धृतोषोत्तमतरो योगेश्वरयो गीयते.
Second line, karma jnana mayat brishottamataro.
Okay. Karmajnanamayodbhrushottamataro.
Mayat. You're saying mayot. Karma jnana mayat.
Mayat. Okay. Karmajnanamayadbhrushottamataro. Correct.
Yeah, correct.
Mataro yogeshwarairgiyate. Evam bhutataya hi bhaktya yogas yogadvayat karmajnanamayadbhrushottamataro yogeshwarairgiyate.
That first line, right? One small correction. Yogas sa yogadvayat. It's a full sa.
Okay. Yogas.
Yogas sa. So is under sa.
Oh. Yogassa yogadvayat.
Yeah. Saundaryaika rasatmake tvai khalu prema prakarshatmika, and then put a plus, bhaktihi, and then put a comma. So in the next word after bhakti, you put a visarga and a comma. So that full third line plus fourth line bhaktihi, comma. Next line on next word on top of the ni, if you have a ir, that goes away. Nishramameva vishwa purushair labhya rama vallabha. सौंदर्यैक रसात्मके त्वयि खलु प्रेम प्रकर्षात्मिका भक्तिः निश्रममेव विश्वपुरुषैर्लभ्या रमा वल्लभ.
सौन्दर्यकरसात्मके त्वयि खलु प्रेम प्रकराश्मिता भक्तिः निश्रममेव विश्वपुरुषैर्लभ्या रमावल्लभा.
Last word, prema prakarshatmika.
सौन्दर्यकरसात्मके त्वयि खलु प्रेम प्रकर्षात्मिका भक्तिः निश्रममेव विश्वपुरुषैर्लभ्या रमावल्लभा.
The third line, first word, right? Saundaryaika. Say yay.
सौन्दर्यैकर.
Yeah.
सौन्दर्यैकरसात्मके.
Yeah.
सौन्दर्यैकरसात्मके त्वयि खलु प्रेम प्रकर्षात्मिका भक्तिर्निश्रममेव विश्वपुरुषैर्लभ्या रमावल्लभा.
Ushakaru, that fourth and that bhaktir is there, right? You remove that ir, okay, and then you put a bhaktihi, visarga and a comma. And say that along with the third line. So prema prakarshatmika bhaktihi.
Okay. Sorry, thanks. सौन्दर्यैकरसात्मके त्वयि खलु प्रेम प्रकर्षात्मिका भक्तिः निश्रममेव विश्वपुरुषैर्लभ्या रमावल्लभ.
Nishkamam niyata swadharma charanam, comma, yat karma yogabhidam, comma, tad duretya phalam yadaupanishada jnanopalabhyam punaha. Nishkamam niyata swadharma charanam yat karma yogabhidam तद्दूरेत्य फलं यदौपनिषद ज्ञानोपलभ्यं पुनः.
निष्कामं नियत स्वधर्मचरणं यत्कर्म योगाभिधं तद्दूरेत्य फलं यदौपनिषद ज्ञानोपलभ्यं पुनः. निष्कामं नियत स्वधर्मचरणं यत्कर्म योगाभिधं तद्दूरेत्य फलं यदौपनिषद ज्ञानोपलभ्यं पुनः.
निष्कामं नियत स्वधर्मचरणं यत्कर्म योगाभिधं तद्दूरेत्य फलं यदौपनिषद ज्ञानोपलभ्यं पुनः. निष्कामं नियत स्वधर्मचरणं यत्कर्म योगाभिधं तद्दूरेत्य फलं यथोपनिषद ज्ञानोपलभ्यं पुनः.
तत्व व्यक्ततया सुदुर्गमतरं चित्तस्य तस्माद् विभो, कॉमा, त्वत् प्रेमात्मक भक्तिरेव, कॉमा, सततं स्वादीयसी श्रेयसी. तत्त्वव्यक्ततया सुदुर्गमतरं चित्तस्य तस्माद् विभो त्वत्प्रेमात्मक भक्तिरेव सततं स्वाधीयसी श्रेयसी.
तत्त्वव्यक्ततया सुद्गुरमतरं चित्तस्य तस्माद् विभो त्वत्प्रेमात्मक भक्तिरेव सततं स्वादीयसी श्रेयसी. तत्त्वव्यक्ततया सदुर्गमतरं चित्तस्य तस्माद् विभो त्वत्प्रेमात्मक भक्तिरेव सततं स्वादीयसी श्रेयसी.
The third line, it is sudurgamataram, su sound, okay.
तत्त्वव्यक्ततया सुदुर्गमतरं चित्तस्य तस्माद् विभो त्वत्प्रेमात्मक भक्तिरेव सततं त्वत्प्रेमात्मक भक्तिरेव सततं स्वादीयसी श्रेयसी. तत्त्वव्यक्ततया सुदुर्गमतरं चित्तस्य तस्माद् विभो त्वत्प्रेमात्मक भक्तिरेव सततं स्वादीयसी श्रेयसी.
Look at this, comma after bhakti reva, okay, and then satatam swadi. Yeah.
I don't know how to stop there.
Premaatmaka bhakti reva satatam swadiyasi shreyasi.
Can I try one more? I don't know how to start there. Tvatprematmaka bhakti reva satatam swadiyasi shreyasi.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, we'll just switch. Ram, you can be a student, and Shanti, you can be a student. Stanza 9. Atyahya sakarani karma patalani acharya niryanmalaha bhode bhakti pate tavapi uchitatam ayanti kim tavata klishtva tarkapate param tava vapuh brahmakya manye punaha चित्तार्धत्वं ऋते विचिन्त्य बहुभिः सिद्ध्यन्ति जन्मान्तरैः. So it again continues the same thing that we're talking, that even through the karma marga you perform all these you should have to perform all your duties, but then what it really does is it just gets your mind ready for the next step. That alone on its own cannot completely lead to liberation. Similarly, we saw that, the Jnana Yoga, through understanding all the Upanishads, we can't even learn one Veda in this lifetime, but you have to learn all those things and which speculate on this Brahman understand, which is also very complicated. So again, it says the Bhakti Yoga, which is praying to you with devotion, is also very sweet. So because of it being sweet, it also helps us attain it much faster. So again, he continues that. So essentially 7, 8, and 9 are talking about the same, adding on to each other. Atyayasa karani karma patalani. So the nya that you have there, you break it, you put a karma patalani, comma. The next one becomes acharya niryan malaha. You may not have a visarga there, but put a visarga there. So niryan malaha, comma. Bhode bhakti pateta vapi. Same, the pya that you have there, you make it a p. Bhakti pateta vapi, comma. Next word starts with the u. Uchitatam ayanti kim tavata. Atyayasakaraani karma patalani acharya niryanmalaha bodhe bhakti pate tavapi uchitatam ayanti kim tavata.
Atyayasakaraani karmapatalani acharya niryanmalaha bodhe bhaktipate tavapi uchitatam ayanti kim tavata. Atyayasakaraani karmapatalani acharya niryanmalaha bodhe bhaktipate tavapi uchitatam ayanti kim tavata.
Atyayasakaraani karmapatalani acharya niryanmalaha bodhe bhaktipate tavapi uchitatam ayanti kim tavata. Atyayasakaraani karmapatalani acharya niryanmalaha bodhe bhaktipate tavapi uchitatam ayanti kim tavata.
Shanti, second time, the first line you said ascharya, it's acharya. There's no ish there, okay?
Okay.
Klishtva tarkapathe param tava vapuhu. So put a visarga after that vapu and comma, vapuhu. The next word, brahmakyam, there'll be ir on top that goes away. So brahmakya manye punaha, visarga and comma again. Next line, you will have an ish that goes away. Chittardatvam rite. Chittardatvam rite vichintya, comma. Bahubis siddhyanti janmantaraihi. Klishtva tarkapate param tava vapuhu. Brahmakya manye punaha. Chittardratvam rite vichintya. Bahubis siddhyanti janmantaraihi.
Klishtva tarkapathe param tavapuhu brahmakhyamanye punaha chittardratvam-rite vichintya bahubhih siddhyanti janmantaraihi. Klishtva tarkapathe param tavapuhu brahmakhyamanye punaha chittardratvam-rite vichintya bahubhih siddhyanti janmantaraihi.
Klishtva darkapate param tava vapuhu brahmakyamanye punaha chiddhartratvam-rite vichintya bahubis siddhyanti janmantraihi.
And the fourth line after vichintya, there is a comma, okay? Fourth line. Pause.
Klishtva darkapate param tava vapuhu brahmakyamanye punaha siddhartratvam-rite vichintya bahubis chittyanti janmantaraihi.
That's it. Tvad-bhaktistu katharasamritajari nirmajjanena swayam siddhyanti vimala prabodha padavim akleshatas tanvati Sadhya siddhikari jayatyai vibho saivastu me tvatpada prema praudirasadrata drutataram patalayadhishwara. Wraps it up by saying, this way, the devotion, whether I am looking at this form of yours, which is very beautiful form, very easy for somebody to engage in, like we said, right? Like, later on when we talk about this meditation, it talks about how to meditate and all, but he says, even if you cannot meditate on the form of the Lord, it's very easy for us to just think in our mind what happened to Prahlada, what happened to Ajamila, what happened to Gajendra, what happened, all the Leela that Krishna did. It's very easy to think in our mind because our mind always wanders, but we can think about these stories. So just by thinking about your, like about the greatness of you and talking about the stories of yours, I will get intense devotion. And the moment I get extreme devotion, automatically wisdom will also come. So with that wisdom, and then I'll get liberated. So, oh Lord of Guruvayur, please bless me so that I get that devotion to you, that extreme devotion to you, which also results in the melting of my heart, right? So, like we said, right, you have to reach that point of devotion. This is requesting here, saying, please bless me with the devotion. So, I reach that extreme state of devotion where I'll fall in love with you. So, Tvat Bhaktistu, comma, Katha Rasamrita Jari Nirmajjanena Swayam, and then put a plus Siddhyanti, and then a comma. So that line continues. Siddhyanti, comma, Vimala Prabodha Padavim Akleshatas Tanvati. Tvat Bhaktistu Katharasamrita Jari Nirmajjanena Swayam Siddhyanti Vimala Prabodha Padavim Akleshatas-tanvati.
Tvad-bhaktistu katharasa-amrita-jhari nirmajjanena swayam siddhayanti Vimala-prabodha-padavim akleshatas-tanvati.
On the second line, first word, Siddhyanti. It's not a full, that's id. Siddhyanti.
Siddhyanti. Okay.
Yeah.
Tvad-bhaktistu katharasa-amrita-jhari nirmajjanena swayam siddhyanti Vimala-prabodha-padavim akleshatas-tanvati.
त्वद्भक्तिस्तु कदारसामृत जरी निर्मज्जनेन स्वयं सिद्धयन्ति विमलप्रबोधपदवीम् अक्लेशदस्तन्वती.
Shanti, the same thing, and the second word, so second line, first word, Siddhyanti.
सिद्धयन्ति இருக்கு.
And the full, if you have, if it is in Sanskrit, you will have a line at the bottom of the da.
Yeah.
So Siddhyanti. It's not Siddhayanti.
Okay.
Siddhyanti. And even the dha, the second dha that comes after that, is not a full dha. It's only id. So Siddhyanti. Dhyanam. So dhya. That dhya.
Okay. त्वद्भक्तिस्तु कदारसामृतजरी निर्मज्जनेन स्वयं सिद्ध्यन्ति विमलप्रबोधपदवीम् अक्लेशदस्तन्वती.
The first line of Tvad Bhaktistu Kapan is a comma. Okay. First line.
Okay.
Sadhyas Siddhikari Jayatyai Vibho, comma, Saivastu me Tvatpada, and then put a plus. Prema Praudi Rasardrata Drutataram, and then a comma. So one comma after Vibho in the third line, then after Drutataram. Vatalayadhishwara. Sadhya Siddhikari Jayatyai Vibho Saivastu me Tvatpada Prema Praudi Rasadhrata Drutataram Vatalayadhishwara.
Sadhya siddhikari jayatyahi vibho Saivastu me tvatpada prema praudi rasardhrata drutataram Vatalayadhishwara. Sadhya siddhikari jayatyahi vibho Saivastu me tvatpada prema praudi rasardhrata drutataram Vatalayadhishwara.
सत्यसिद्धिकरी जयत्यहि विभो सैवास्तु मे मे त्वत्पदप्रेम प्रौढिरसात्रदातृतरदरं वातालयादीश्वर सत्यसिद्धिकरी जयत्यहि विभो सैवास्तु मे त्वत्पदप्रेम प्रौढिरसार्द्रदातृतरं वातालयादीश्वर.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. So third chapter is Bhakta Swarupa Varnanam and Bhakti Prarthana. So here, if you're ending the Dashakam 2 by saying Bhakti Yoga is the best way, is the easiest way or relatively easy way, and is the best way to follow compared to Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, the third one is continuing to say what defines the right devotee, what defines the greatest of devotees. So you have to have some aspiration, right? Saying, I want to be like that person, so you can work towards that person. So what is that? How should a greatest devotee be? So you can work towards it. And also Bhakti Prarthana. There is also a prayer to say, please give me that blessing so I can become like the devotee, right? Those are the two things in this chapter. So this is one of those 4-liner tunes, but the lines may not be long in some cases, right? So stanza 1. Patantho namani pramadabhara sindhau nipatitaha smaranto rupam te varadakatayanto gunakataha charanto ye bhaktaha tvai khalu ramante paramamune aham dhanyan manye samadhigata sarva bhilashitan. She says, I consider among all your devotees, right, the people who are the most fortunate, like how do you define the most fortunate of devotees? It is not whether somebody has got a great family or somebody has got a lot of money. He says, number one, who are always chanting your namani, who are always saying your names, one form or another, like even Vishnu Sahasranam, it doesn't matter what it is, right? Always chanting your names, number one. Second is, in the smaranto rupamte, who are always meditating or contemplating on your form. So either they're chanting your names or they're meditating on your forms. Or number three, guna kataha, who are always telling your stories. Because even telling your stories also, you're thinking about the Lord all the time. So someone who's always telling of the stories. He says anybody who is doing all of these things, right, we are considered the ideal devotee because they are never going to be in a lot of sufferings because they're always thinking about you, talking about your names and everything. Number four, these people who also are not staying in one place, because even in olden days people never stay in one place like the sages, right? Because they feel if you stay in one place you get attached to that place. So the sadhus always used to travel, right? And I think I said this before, I don't know in this class or some other class, but when they take the bhiksha also, they cannot take the same bhiksha from the same house for more than 2 days, because then they'll start liking that person's food. Oh, in there the uppu correct, uppu is perfect in this house, I'll always go to that house next time, right? So you should not even do that. You should constantly keep moving because you cannot get attached to it. The only time they stay in one place is when the Chaturmasyam comes, like this time when the rainy season comes and the Avniyata comes, they stay in one place and then they they learn the Vedas, right? Or the knowledge happen. Otherwise they're always moving. Similarly, I don't want to be staying in one place. I want to be constantly moving. Those are the ideal devotees, but not constantly moving as in traveling around, but going to your holy places, right? Going and visiting all the kshetrams and not be confined to one place. So people who follow all these things, he says, are the greatest of the devotees because they're always thinking about you, right? So patantho namani, short e, comma, pramada bhara sindhau nipatitaha, comma, smaranto rupante, comma, varada kathayanto gunakathaha. Patantho namani pramada bhara sindhau nipatitaha smaranto rupante varada katayanto gunakathaha.
पठन्तो नामानि प्रमदभरसिन्धौ निपतिताः स्मरन्तो रूपं ते वरदकथयन्तो गुणकथाः पठन्तो नामानि प्रमदभरसिन्धौ निपतिताः स्मरन्तो रूपं ते वरदकथयन्तो गुणकथाः
पठन्तो नामानि प्रमदपरसिन्धौ निबदिताः स्मरन्तो रूपं ते वरद कथयन्तो गुणगदाः.
After Rupam, second line, pause, okay?
Okay. पठन्तो नामानि प्रमदपरसिन्धौ निबदिताः स्मरन्तो रूपं ते वरद कथयन्तो गुणकथाः
charanto ye bhaktaha, that is there, remove it, put a visarga comma, tvai khalu ramante paramamune, put a in at the end of that line, paramamune, comma. Next line, if you have naham, remove the na goes away, it becomes aham. Aham dhanyan manye samadhigata sarva bhilashitan. Charanto ye bhaktaha त्वयि खलु रमन्ते परममूने अहं धन्यान् मन्ये समधिगत सर्वाभिलषितान्.
चरन्तो ये भक्ताः त्वयि खलु रमन्ते परममून् अहं धन्यान् मन्ये समधिगत सर्वाभिलषितान् चरन्तो ये भक्ताः त्वयि खलु रमन्ते परममून् अहं धन्यान् मन्ये समधिगत सर्वाभिलषितान्
चरन्तो ये भक्ताः त्वयि खलु रमन्ते परममून् अहं धन्यान् मन्ये समधिगत सर्वा विलसितान् चरन्तो ये भक्ताः त्वयि खलु रमन्ते परममून् अहं धन्यान् मन्ये समधिगत सर्वा विलसितान्
Stanza 2. गदक्लिष्टं कष्टं तव चरणसेवारसभरेऽपि अनासक्तं चित्तं भवति भत विष्णो कुरुदयां भवत्पादाम्बोजस्मरणरसिको नावनिवहान् अहं गायं गायं कुवचन विवत्स्यामि विजने. So let's say we decide that, you know what, I'm going to get into this bhakti marga. I'm going to be always praying. I'm going to be always saying the Lord's names, and I'm always going to be telling his stories. But the number one prerequisite for that is your body and your mind should not have problems, right? That's very important. So that's why, you know, for those, I know a lot of people here chant Devi Mahatmyam. The first thing you do in Devi Mahatmyam is you stand Devi Kavacham. You say the Kavacham to protect your body, so that your body has to be fit, right? If you have to go sit, and we did Devi Mahatmyam Parayanam for 5 hours without getting up. If you cannot sit for 5 hours, you cannot do that Parayanam there, right? So your body has to be fit, right? But here Bhattacharya is saying, I am suffering so much in my body, right? So he is having rheumatoid arthritis. Each of us will have different body problems. He says, but if I have such problems, how can I want to be devoted to you, but then you're giving me so many health problems that I'm not able to focus my mind on praying to you. So he says, oh Lord, I want to be devoted to you. I want to be like the ideal devotee. I want to be always talking about you. I want to go from place to place, right, and visit your temples. But you have to remove this diseases and afflictions you've given to me, both in my body and mind. You clear it out. Not so that I want to enjoy, so that I can constantly be devoted to you and constantly be praying over to you. That is what he's saying. You know, please, God, it's custom. I'm suffering. You know, it's hard that I'm having all these problems. So, however, for me to always be worshipping you, always going everywhere, you know, please feel pity on me and then eradicate all these ailments that I have, right? Both body and mind. So, Gada Klishtam Kashtam, comma, Tava Charana Sevarasa Bharepi. So put a P, short P, comma. Next line, the Pya goes away. If you have that next word, next line, it becomes A. Anasaktam Chittam Bhavati Bata, comma. Vishnu Kurudayam. Oh Vishnu, please have compassion on me. Gadaklishtam Kashtam Tava Charana Seva Rasabharepi Anasaktam Chittam Bhavati Bata Vishnu Kurudayam.
गदक्लिष्टं कष्टं तव चरणसेवारसभरेऽपि अनासक्तं चित्तं भवति बत विष्णो कुरुदयाम् गदक्लिष्टं कष्टं तव चरणसेवारसभरेऽपि अनासक्तं चित्तं भवति बत विष्णो कुरुदयाम्.
गदक्लिष्टं कष्टं तव चरणसेवारसब्बरेऽपि अनासक्तं सिद्धं भवति पदविष्णो गुरुदयाम्
Bhavati bata. Kapran this comma, okay.
गदक्लिष्टं कष्टं तव चरणसेवारसब्बरेऽपि अनासक्तं सिद्धं भवति पद विष्णो गुरुदयाम्
Bhavat padambhoja smarana rasiko nama nivahan. Put a in at the end of that line, comma. Next line, the first word, the na goes away, becomes a. Aham gayam, comma. Kuhachana vivatsyami vijane. Bhavat padambhoja smarana rasiko nama nivahan. Aham gayam. Kuhachana vivatsyami vijane.
भवत्पादाम्भोजस्मरणरसिको नाम निवहान् अहं गायं कुहचन विवस्यामि विजने भवत्पादाम्भोजस्मरणरसिको नाम निवहान् अहं गायं कुहचन विवस्यामि विजने
भवत्पादाम्बोजस्मरणरसिको नाम निवहान् अहं गायं गुहचन विवस्यामि विजने भवत्पादाम्बोजस्मरणरसिको नाम निवहान् अहं गायं गुहचन विवस्यामि विजने
That's a 3. Kripate jata chet किमिव न हि लभ्यं तनुभृतां मदीय क्लेशौघ प्रशमनदशा नाम कियति न के लोकेऽस्मिन् अनिशमै शोकाभिरहिताः भवद्भक्ता मुक्ताः सुखगतिमसक्ताभिददते. He says, if anybody has your grace, says what is impossible, right? So because in every chapter, as you remember, even when Narsimha Avataram or anything comes, he says, oh Lord, you who came and got rid of Narsimha, please eradicate my ailments. Right? In Kurma Avataram, you came and you lifted the entire mountain and you supported it. Please eradicate my ailments, right? So in each of that, he comes and says, you're doing all these great tasks, right? But he says, at the same time, you also have to eradicate my ailment. It should not be a big deal for you, right? It's like, he says that, the comparison he gives is, you don't go to somebody who's in the top of the food chain and ask for something so trivial. It's like an insult to that person when you go ask. Like you go to the president and say, my association did not shovel my snow. He's not going to care about it, right? But Bhattaripad says, that's okay. I'm coming to you right now and asking you, just get rid of all these diseases and afflictions I have. It may be very trivial for you. For somebody who does so many things, it's very trivial matter, but it's okay. You just do that for me right now, right? That's what I want right now, right? Get rid of that, number one. Number two, we always compare, right? Say, hey, you did this for this person. So he says that I know a lot of your devotees, like Narada and everybody else, who can go anywhere they want in this world, who do not have any sufferings, who do not have any diseases. What do? They're always chanting your name. And they're free to travel anywhere they want, always chanting your name. So you're saying, I want the same thing. I want to be always saying your name. I want to be traveling everywhere without any sufferings or without any diseases. You have done it for a lot of your Bhavat Bhakta Muktaha. You've done for so many of your devotees who are liberated. Please do the same thing for me as well, right? That's the request. So most of this chapter is like a prayer. It's a request to the Lord to say, get rid of my suffering so that I can be a true devotee to you. So kripate jata chet, after that it you put a comma, kimiva nahi labhyam tanubhritam, comma, madiya kleshaugha prashamana dasha nama kiyati. Kripate jata chet, kimiva nahi labhyam tanubhritam, madiya kleshaugha prashamana dasha nama kiyati.
कृपाते जाता चेत् किमिव न हि लभ्यं तनुभृतां मदीयक्लेशौघप्रशमनदशा नाम कियती कृपाते जाता चेत् किमिव न हि लभ्यं तनुभृतां मदीयक्लेशौघप्रशमनदशा नाम कियती
कृपा ते जाता चेत् किमिव न हि लभ्यं तनुपृतां मदीयक्लेशौघप्रमसन दशा नाम कियती.
It's a second line. Prashamana dasha.
Okay. कृपा ते जाता चेत् किमिव न हि लभ्यं तनुपृतां मदीयक्लेशौघप्रशमनदशा नाम कियती.
Na ke lokesmin. So you'll have two nas there. First put a in lokesmin, comma. Next word starts with the a. Anishamai shoka bhirahitaha. Put a visarga there and comma. Bhirahitaha. Bhavat bhakta muktaha, comma. Sukha gatim asakta vidadate. न के लोकेऽस्मिन् अनिशमयि शोकाभिरहिताः भवद्भक्ता मुक्ताः सुखगतिमसक्ताभिददते.
न के लोकेऽस्मिन् अनिशमयि शोकाभिरहिताः भवद्भक्ता मुक्ताः सुखगतिमसक्ता विदधते न के लोकेऽस्मिन् अनिशमयि शोकाभिरहिताः भवद्भक्ता मुक्ताः सुखगतिमसक्ता विदधते
न के लोकेऽस्मिन् अनिशमयि सोगाभिरहिताः भवद्भक्ता मुक्ताः सुखगतिम् अशक्ता विदधते. न के लोकेऽस्मिन् अनिशमयि सोगाभिरहिताः भवद्भक्ता मुक्ताः सुखगतिम् अशक्ता विदधते.
मुनि प्रौढारूढाः जगति खलु गूढात्मगतयो भवत्पादाम्बोजस्मरणविरुजो नारदमुखाः चरन्तीश स्वैरं सततपरिनिर्भातपरचेत् सदानन्दाद्वैत प्रसरपरिमग्नाः किमपरम्. Kind of the continuation of what I already said. He says, this is where he's talking about the Narada example. He says that people like Narada and others who travel anywhere they want, they're fully satisfied with themselves. So they don't have any need, they don't have any request or any prayers about anything. They don't consider themselves as the great or lowest or anything. They don't consider have any social structure. They are completely free of any desires, right? And all they want to do is they want to be always saying Bhavat Padam Boja. They always want to be worshipping your feet. That is what they want to do, and they're always immersed in you. He says, what more can somebody ask for? He says, that's all I'm also asking for. Please eradicate all these diseases so I can also be like them, always thinking about you, because that's my prayer here. Muni praudha rudhaha. So put a visarga there in comma. Jagati khalu gudhatma gatayo, comma. Bhavat padam bhoja smarana virujo narada mukhaha. मुनि प्रौढारूढाः जगति खलु गूढात्मगतयो भवत्पादाम्बोजस्मरणविरुजो नारदमुखाः.
मुनि प्रौढारूढाः जगति खलु गूढात्मगतयो भवत्पादाम्भोजस्मरणविरुजो नारदमुखाः. मुनि प्रौढारूढाः जगति खलु गूढात्मगतयो भवत्पादाम्भोजस्मरणविरुजो नारदमुखाः.
मुनि प्रौढारूढाः जगति खलु गूढात्मगतयो भवत्पादाम्बोजस्मरणविरुजो नारदमुखाः. मुनि प्रौढारूढाः जगति खलु गूढात्मगतयो भवत्पादाम्बोजस्मरणविरुजो नारदमुखाः.
चरन्तीश स्वैरम, put a comma there. Satata parinirbhata. Then at the end of the line put a plus. Parachit sadananda dvaita prasara parimagnaha, put a ich sound, parimagnah kimaparam. So one comma after swairam, and then the rest of the line is the two lines are together. Charanti shaswairam satata parinirbhata parachit sadananda dvaita prasara parimagnah kimaparam.
चरन्तीशस्वैरं सतत परिनिर्भात परचित् सदानन्दाद्वैत प्रसर परिमग्नाः किमपरम् चरन्तीशस्वैरं सतत परिनिर्भात परचित् सदानन्दाद्वैत प्रसर परिमग्नाः किमपरम्
चरन्ति सस्वैरं सतत परिनिर्बाध परचित् सदानन्दाद्वैत प्रसर परिमग्नाः किमपरम् सरन्ति सस्वैरं सतत परिनिर्बाध परचित् सदानन्दाद्वैत प्रसर परिमग्नाः किमपरम्.
We'll do one last stanza and stop today. Bhavad bhakti spita bhavatu mama saiva prashamayet ashesha kleshaugam na khalu hridi sandeha kanika na ched vyasasyoktih tavacha vachanam naigama vacho bhaven mitya ratya purusha vachana prayamakilam. It says, meantime, while I'm waiting for you to eliminate my diseases, cure my ailments, and all of these things, what am I going to do? My devotion to you is always going to increase. Bhavad Bhakti is always going to increase, because he says that is the only way my sufferings are going to go down. And he says, na sandeham. I have absolutely no doubt that devotion to you is the only way I can actually eliminate my sufferings and eliminate my ailments. And he gives proofs. He says, why am I saying this? Because first of all, he says, Vyasa has said, and Vyasa, like I've told you all about the history of Srimad Bhagavatam, how he ended up writing it. In that also, he has said that's the reason he did all of that, was because he said devotion is the only way out. Number one. He says, you yourself has said, oh Krishna, you yourself has said it in two places. One is you told Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita about all these ways of attaining you. You said Bhakti Margam. Two, to Uddhava also, you gave this Uddhava Gita where you said Bhakti Margam is the greatest. So you have said it twice. Vyasa has said it several times, and several others have also said it. So it's like the mathematical corollary, right? So unless all of you are wrong, right? And he says it is as if devotion was not the right thing, then he says all of you are equivalent to those mad people who are standing on the streets just yelling things. So when you walk in the downtown, you see people yelling things, right? He says you are all like that. So, but you are not. So which means whatever you say is correct. So that's what he's kind of justifying. He's saying I have no way out. Devotion is the only way. If devotion was not the way, all of you are wrong in what you said. If all of you are wrong in what you said, you are all like those beggars who are standing on the streets and yelling wrong things, which is not the case, right? That's why he's kind of justifying that devotion is the only way out. So Bhavad Bhakti hi, put a is, bhaktis, spita bhavatu mama, comma, saiva prashamayet, put a it at the end of that line. Next time the da becomes a, ashesha kleshaugham, na khalu hridi sandeha kanika. Just say one time, Ram. Bhavad bhakti spita bhavatu mama saiva prashamayete ashesha kleshaugham na khalu hridi sandeha kanika.
Bhavad bhakti spita bhavatu mama saiva prashamayet ashesha kleshaugham na khalu hridi sandeha kanika.
Bhavat bhakti spita bhavatu mama saiva prasamayet asesha kleshaukam nakalu hardi sandeha kanika.
The first line after bhavatu mama, there is a pause, okay? Nachet vyasas yoktihi, that is there, put a visarga, comma, yoktihi, comma, tavacha vachanam naigama vacho bhaven mitya. So put a plus and then comma after bhaven mitya. Ratya purusha vachana prayam akhilam. न चेद् व्यासस्योक्तिः तव च वचनं नैगम वचो भवेन्मिथ्या रत्या पुरुषवचन प्रायमखिलम्.
न चेद्व्यासस्योक्तिः तव च वचनं नैगमवचो भवेन्मिथ्या रथ्या पुरुषवचनप्रायमखिलम्
न चेत् व्यासस्योक्तिः तव च वचनं नैकमवचो भवेन्मिथ्या रत्या पुरुषवचनप्रायमखिलम्
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. And here, Andhanandhavabodhatmakamanupamitam kaladeshavadibhyam nirmuktam nityamuktam nigamashatasahasrena nirbhasyamanam aspashtam vrishtamatre punarurupurusharthatmakam brahmatattvam tattavad bhati sakshat gurupavanapure hanta bhagyam jananam कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. Thank you everyone. See you next week.
Thank you, Ji.
Thank
Thank you.
Rajesh. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh.